She walked into the boutique quietly, wearing a plain dress and worn-out shoes. Her eyes lit up as she admired the elegant wedding gowns that sparkled under the soft lights. But it didn't take long before the whispers began. The staff glanced at each other, smirking, as if she didn't belong there. One of them even laughed behind her back, loud enough for her to hear. "Those dresses aren't for people like her," someone murmured. With her head held high, she asked to try on a gown, but they refused, mocking her appearance and suggesting she'd never afford a wedding like that anyway. She left without saying much, her heart heavy but her spirit unbroken. What they didn't know was that the simple woman they humiliated wasn't just any ordinary person. Life had tested her many times, but she always rose stronger. And fate. Well, fate had something extraordinary planned, because just a few months later, that same woman returned to the very boutique they had laughed her out of. But this time, everything was different. This time, she stepped out of a luxury car. This time, her hand was held by someone no one could ignore, the billionaire who had fallen in love with her heart, not her clothes. The shop assistants stared in disbelief. The woman they had once looked down on now stood before them with quiet grace, and a diamond ring that shimmered brighter than any dress in the room. But what happened in between? How did she go from being ridiculed to becoming a billionaire's bride? Stay with me, because what happened next will surprise you. Before the diamond ring and the stares of shock, there was struggle, years of it. Her name was Alina. She grew up in a small town, raised by a single mother who worked 2 jobs just to put food on the table. Alina had big dreams, but not much money. She worked as a waitress, studied late into the night, and learned to smile through hardship. People often overlooked her. They saw the cheap clothes and assumed she had nothing to offer. But behind her quiet eyes was a woman determined to change her life. When she first came to the bridal boutique, it wasn't just about the dresses. She had come with hope, believing love would carry her into a better future. Her fiancé at the time, someone she'd dated for years, had promised her the world. But when he saw the way the boutique staff treated her, he didn't stand up for her. He looked embarrassed of her. That moment shattered something inside Alina. She walked away from the boutique and the relationship. Alina disappeared from the town for a while after that. People whispered, guessing where she went. Some said she gave up. Others said she left out of shame. The truth was far more surprising. Alina didn't run away, she rebuilt. She moved to the city, started working for a tech startup, and threw herself into learning everything she could. She wasn't trying to impress anyone anymore. She was chasing her own growth. And one day, in the most unexpected way, she met him. He wasn't flashy. He didn't talk about money. In fact, Alina didn't even know who he really was at first. But something about him felt different. What connected them, and how did it all lead back to that same boutique? You'll see. Alina met Daniel in the most ordinary way, at a coffee shop during a rainy afternoon. She was hunched over her laptop, finishing a project that could decide her future at the startup. He offered her a napkin when her coffee nearly spilled, and that small moment led to a conversation neither of them expected. He was kind, curious, and asked her about her goals, not just what she did for a living. It wasn't until weeks later that she learned he was the founder of one of the biggest tech investment firms in the country. But Daniel never treated her like someone below him. He respected her ideas, valued her opinions, and supported her work. For the first time, Alina felt seen, not for how she looked or what she wore, but for who she really was. Their bond grew slowly and deeply, and as they spent more time together, it became clear something real was forming. Still, Alina never forgot the boutique. She never forgot the feeling of being judged, of standing in that room full of beautiful gowns, and realizing the people there only saw what was on the surface. That moment had planted something inside her, not bitterness, but a quiet fire. Behind the scenes, things weren't perfect. Daniel's world came with its own set of challenges. The media began to notice her. Pepperesi tried to dig into her past, labeling her the simple girl who got lucky. His business partners questioned her background, and some of his so-called friends even hinted that she wasn't the right fit for his lifestyle. Alina stayed calm, but the pressure was building. She felt eyes on her everywhere she went. The very things that once made her invisible were now being used to question her worth. And then came the invitation to that same boutique. The invitation came in a sleek white envelope, gold lettering pressed into the card. It was from Daniel's sister, who was planning her wedding and had chosen the very same high-end bridal boutique, the one that had humiliated Alina not long ago. At first, Alina thought of saying no. She didn't want to walk into that place again, not with those same judgmental eyes watching her. But Daniel, unaware of her past with the boutique, encouraged her gently. "Come with me," he said. "You'll love it there." She nodded with a smile, but inside, her heart raced. As the day approached, memories of that moment years ago came flooding back. The laughter, the rejection, the sting of feeling small. But she wasn't that woman anymore. Still, doubts crept in. Would they recognize her? Would they treat her the same way, not realizing who she had become? Or worse, would they pretend to be kind now that she stood next to wealth? When she arrived at the boutique with Daniel, cameras clicked outside. The staff greeted him with warm smiles and sparkling eyes, clearly recognizing who he was. But when they looked at her, there was hesitation, brief but telling. Alina noticed it. The manager's polite tone felt rehearsed, his eyes flicking between her outfit and Daniel's watch. Then came the moment she dreaded. The boutique assistant, who had once refused to let her try on a gown, stepped forward. Alina knew that face. The woman didn't seem to recognize her, yet. But as Alina walked through the store, calm and composed, something changed. A flicker of memory crossed the assistant's face. Her smile faltered, her eyes widened. And just as Alina was about to speak, Daniel turned to her and said something that stopped everyone in the room. But that moment we'll get to next. Daniel turned to Alina with a soft smile and said, "I want you to find your dress today, the one you'll wear when you marry me." The room fell completely silent. Every assistant froze, the manager straightened his collar, and the woman who once mocked Alina turned pale. Alina stood still, heart pounding, trying to process the moment. She hadn't expected him to say it like that. Not here, not now. And suddenly, all eyes were on her again. But this time, it was different. She wasn't invisible. She was center stage. Before she could respond, the boutique doors opened and another woman stepped in, elegant, confident, and clearly someone important. The staff rushed to greet her. Daniel's expression shifted slightly. "That's Veronica," he said under his breath. "My ex." Alina felt her stomach tighten. The woman looked right at her, then at Daniel, and offered a tight smile. Veronica didn't need an introduction. She was known in the fashion world, a designer turned socialite. The boutique clearly adored her. She walked over, greeted Daniel with a familiar hug, and then turned her eyes to Alina. "You must be the one I've been hearing about," she said sweetly, though the tone didn't match the words. It became clear this wasn't a coincidence. Veronica had seen the headlines, Daniel's engagement, the simple girl story the media couldn't stop talking about. And now here she was at the same boutique, on the same day with perfect timing. The tension sharpened. The boutique staff, unsure who to cater to, began whispering again. Alina felt the old sting creeping back in, but she also knew she couldn't walk away this time. Because what happened next would change everything. Alina took a slow breath and stepped forward. All the emotions she had buried, the humiliation, the doubt, the fear, rose to the surface, but she didn't let them shake her. She looked directly at the boutique assistant, the one who had once denied her, and spoke calmly. "You told me I wasn't good enough to try on a dress here. Do you remember?" The assistant's face turned red. She opened her mouth, but no words came out. The room was so quiet, You could hear the soft hum of the boutique lights. Daniel looked confused. "Wait, what is she talking about?" he asked, glancing at the staff. Alina turned to him and nodded. "This is the place I told you about, the one that made me feel like I didn't belong." The silence broke. The manager rushed in with apologies, trying to save face. "We had no idea. If we had known." But Alina cut him off. "That's the problem. You shouldn't need to know who someone is to treat them with respect." Then Veronica stepped closer, arms crossed. "You've made your point, but let's be honest. If it weren't for Daniel, you wouldn't be standing here now." Her words were sharp, meant to sting, but Alina didn't flinch. She simply smiled and reached into her handbag, pulling out a slim folder. "This is a proposal," she said, "from my company, the startup I helped grow. We just acquired shares in this boutique's parent brand." Veronica's expression dropped. Alina wasn't just Daniel's fiancée. She was now a major investor. The room shifted. Power changed hands without a single raised voice. And just when it seemed everything had come full circle, Daniel turned to Alina and said, "There's one more thing I haven't told you yet. But that's secret. That's another story." Alina looked at Daniel, a mix of curiosity and calm in her eyes. "What haven't you told me?" she asked softly. He reached for her hand, smiling in a way that made the rest of the room fade into the background. "I've been planning something," he said. "A private ceremony, just us. I didn't want the media, the noise, just you. I already talked to your mom. She's on board. She said she'd bake the cake herself." Alina laughed, tears suddenly welling up. It wasn't the luxury or the boutique that mattered. It was the journey, the love, the truth that she had finally found a place where she didn't have to prove herself. The boutique staff, now speechless, watched as Alina chose her gown, not because of its price tag or label, but because she loved how it made her feel. The same assistant who once turned her away now helped her zip it up, hands shaking slightly. Alina didn't gloat. She simply smiled and said, "Thank you." Outside, the headlines had already begun to spin. Asterisk simple girl owns boutique that once rejected her asterisk. But inside, the story was never about revenge. It was about rising above, staying true to yourself, and knowing your worth even when others don't. Veronica left quietly, no more words exchanged. And as Alina and Daniel walked out hand in hand, no cameras, no crowds, just peace, she felt something deeper than victory. She felt free. Because in the end, the real transformation wasn't in her wardrobe or her status. It was in her belief that she was never too simple, too small, or too unimportant. She was always enough. And now, the world finally saw it too.